Welcome to our webinar today on WebAssign Essentials. My name is Elizabeth Halchak. I'm a Regional Customer Success Manager, and I'll be the host of today's session. I also have my colleague, Shauna Campbell, on the session as well. She'll be helping out with the Q&A. During our session today, we're going to go ahead and just jump live into WebAssign. We're going to start with the course creation process in WebAssign, including how to create a fresh WebAssign course, as well as how to copy an existing course. We'll walk through basic navigation of that course, as well as customization. So how to create your assignments, customize your assignment settings and templates, add in questions. Then we'll also take a look at ScoreView and Gradebook. These are the tools that you can use to monitor and analyze your students' progress as they get in and start taking your WebAssign assignments. We'll wrap up the session today by doing a quick review of where you can access student registration instructions, all of the instructor and student resources that are available to you, as well as a reminder of our All Access Hub. And we'll wrap up the session by opening it up for Q&A. And with that, let's go ahead and jump in live. So I'm going to jump out of my slides here. And I am in my WebAssign account. So you can sign into your WebAssign account. You can access directly through your Cengage Instructor Center or signing in at webassign.net. When you sign into your account, you'll be taken into your homepage. You'll navigate through the instructor side using the tabs that run across the top, and you have your action tools right below. All of your courses that you have set up are going to be organized by current or future classes. And you'll have the drop-down menu to be able to access any past classes. A few items that I'm going to point out here in the top right-hand corner. One is the Open Student View link. This takes you into a student view of your WebAssign course. This does take you into that true student view, so you can see exactly what your students will see. This will allow you to, again, see exactly what their experience is. You can take assignments and really experience the course as your students would. Also in this area, you can access our help guide, and this is our searchable help menu where you can access step-by-step documentation on the functionality and features available in WebAssign. Before we get started with creating a new course, I do want to open up the student view to give you a sense of what that student view will look like. So if I click on Open Student View, the link right up here at the top, I've actually already done that, and I have my course open here. So again, this is the student perspective of one of my WebAssign courses. The students will be able to access most everything they need from the Home tab, but they also have additional tabs that run across the top of the page here. Any assignments they have available to take will show underneath My Assignments. A student can simply click into the assignment, and they'll be able to take the assignment according to the settings that you have selected. A few things that I'll note here that will provide some context once we get over onto the instructor side. There is an Ask Your Teacher function. This allows the students to send you a message as they're working on this particular question. Should they have any question or want some guidance? We also do have these help tools that are available at the bottom of the question. These tools vary depending on the question. Most will have a read it that will take the students out to the ebook section that's relevant for this question. Some may have watch its that will take the students out to a video, as well as master it that will walk the students through a tutorial. Any of the content that you see here in red is content that's algorithmic, so this would vary from student to student. And we'll touch on all of the assignment settings that you have available once we get back over to the instructor side. Additionally, students have access to resources. So your textbook may have various resources available. This would include things like videos, PowerPoint slides. You have the ability to determine what shows to your students, and I'll show you that once we get over to the instructor side. My Class Insights is a tool here on the right-hand side that students can use. This populates based off of the student's performance on their WebAssign assignments. So it allows them to very easily see any topics that they've mastered, anywhere they may need some further practice, and will provide students access to practice versions of the questions that you've already assigned. And lastly, I'll point out the students can access their ebook here as well. So I'm going to jump out of the student side and we're back over here on the instructor side. So we'll start by creating a WebAssign course. That's done using the Create button that's here in the top left. If you click on Create, from the menu, you'll choose Course. And you'll notice that you have two options. One is to create a new course with no assignments. So what this will do is create a blank WebAssign course shell and allow you to go in and create your assignments. However, if you have used WebAssign previously and just want to make a copy of one of your existing courses, you can do so using this option here. Your list of courses will show, and you can simply click on the course that you would like to copy. You may see some of your courses that are kind of shaded in this orangish color that'll say update. This indicates that the textbook that this course is based off of is now in a new edition. WebAssign includes an auto edition update tool that will allow you to automatically convert your existing assignments to the latest edition of the text. So you don't have to rebuild all of your assignments. You can simply run the update tool for any of the courses that fall into that scenario. I'm just going to create a new course with no assignments, and I'm going to click on Continue. And from here, you're just going to enter in your basic information. If you want to put your section number in, you can here as well. You will auto-populate as the instructor, and then you're going to see your various roster options. The first option is to have the students self-enroll with a class key. When you choose this option, after you set up your WebAssign course, you'll be presented with a class key that you'll then provide to your students. They'll use this when they are registering, and this is what will roster the student into your particular WebAssign section. You could also choose to enroll students from a roster. This would allow you to upload a roster or manually add students. The third, if you are planning to integrate with your learning management system, you can choose this option here, and then you can integrate this course to your learning management system when you're ready. I'm going to pick my term and then my start date and end date. The start date is the date on which students can first access the WebAssign course. And then your end date is the date on which they can last access. Then you can indicate your class meeting times. If your class does not meet at a scheduled time, you can choose no scheduled class meetings. And then you're going to choose your textbook. So I'm just going to scroll down to calculus, but of course you would choose your course and discipline area. And then you can use the search fields as well. And you can separate the terms with a comma. So I'm just going to find my text. So we'll do Stewart 9E. You'll just certify that this is the textbook that you're using, and then click on Create Course. After the course creates, which it's working through right now, it's going to take you into the course schedule page. So right now, because I created an empty course, I don't have any assignments that are created. Depending on your textbook, you may have what we call course packs available. These are sets of pre-built assignments that you can use and modify and then schedule into your course. If your textbook does have a course pack, you can access using the menu next to assignments and choosing course packs. Because calculus is a multi-term course, I have several course packs that I could choose to download. You may just have one for your course. To download, you would click on Add Course Packs to My Assignments. This will download all of the assignments into your Assignments tab here. That will allow you to edit those assignments and then schedule into your course. I'm going to jump back now to my homepage. And now the course that we just created is listed here on the screen. The homepage will show you any of your current courses. However, if you want to isolate down to just a specific course, you can do that by clicking on Class View or Jump to Class. Once you've created your class, I'm just going to scroll down to a class that I've actually assigned a couple of assignments into. You're going to see that listed here. All of your assignments will be in this Assignments tab. So these are all assignments that you have scheduled into the course. They're organized by whether they're current. So these are assignments available for students to take. Past, which would be past due dates, or future, where the available date on the assignment is still in the future. For each assignment, you have the ability to view it, go back in and edit, adjust the schedule, or access the scores. The other tab that you have here for the course is Resources. This corresponds with that resources area that we looked at on the student side. So this is where you can indicate any of the resources that are available for your textbook that you want to show to your students. Any item that's selected is visible to students. If you deselect, that resource will not be visible to your students. And you can just scroll down to the bottom and click on Save just to save any updates that you may make. Over here on the left-hand side underneath Class Tools, you'll see your roster information. So this will start to populate as your students register into your course. Score View and Class Insights are tools that you can use to monitor student performance, and we'll take a look at those a little bit later on in the session. You can access the ebook, edit your class settings, as well as adjust communication settings. I'm going to jump into those here quickly. For your course, there are a couple of communication settings that you may choose to adjust. The first is extensions. So I'm just going to click on Unanswered here underneath Extensions, and then Settings on the far right. By default, students have the ability to request an extension, and then you can manually approve that extension request or deny. If you don't want the students to have that ability, you can simply disable that option. Or if you are going to enable, you can also have those requests forwarded to your email. Note you can also set up extension policies. One of those policies is automatic extensions. So if you do want to allow extensions, this is a way that you can set up a policy so that that extension is automatically granted to the student, provided it falls into the framework that you set here, without you having to go in and manually approve that request. You can have different policies for different assignment types. So for instance, if you want to allow late work for homework, but maybe not for quizzes or tests, you can certainly do that. Ask your teacher, that corresponds with that Ask Your Teacher button that we looked at on the student side. This is turned on by default. You can turn it off if you don't want the students to have that Ask Your Teacher function. You can also choose to have any messages forwarded to your email as well. And then the other one that you may want to adjust is private messages. This allows students to message you within WebAssign. It is turned on by default, but you can click on Settings if you want to turn it off. The other options that you have here is Class Schedule will take you back to that class schedule page, and then you do have some copy options to copy to new sections. I'll pause here for a minute. Are there any questions before we move on to creating assignments?
I think we're okay right now. We had one question come in about forwarding emails to your, or forwarding Ask My Teacher messages to your email, which I think you just covered. So I think we're good.
Okay, perfect. All right, so next we'll move on to assignment creation. If you have assignments that you've already created that you just need to modify, you can do that by clicking on the edit link next to the assignment. Or if you've downloaded those course packs, again, you can access those through My Assignments and edit from there. However, if you want to create your own assignments, you can do that by clicking on the Create button, either from Assignments or just the general Create button. The first section of the assignment editor is the assignment settings. We do have some pre-built assignment templates. These are sets of settings that have kind of the most common settings depending on the assignment type. You can also create your own assignment templates that you can use so that you're not having to set all of the settings on the assignment every single time you set up a WebAssign assignment. So I'll click on Edit Settings, and this will allow you to see all of the settings that are available. The first is to identify a category that you want the assignment associated with. So whether it's a homework assignment, exam, what have you. Next, the next set of settings refer to submissions. So first you can indicate how many submissions are allowed. Then you'll determine really like what you're considering to be a submission. You have question parts, questions, or the entire assignment. If you choose question parts, like for instance, in this case, my students would have 5 tries at each part. Questions, the students would have 5 tries at the entire question, regardless of how many parts are included. Or if you choose assignment, the student has to complete the entire assignment before they can move on to their next submission. Then you have your scoring options. And lastly, show my work. This is an option that would provide the ability for students to upload their written work or kind of type out the steps that they took to get to that final answer. This can be turned on at a question level or for the entire assignment. It's disabled by default. You could make it optional, or if you choose required, there is a point value associated with the student completing that step. Next is question randomization. So as we looked at on the student side, much of the WebAssign questions include algorithmic randomized values. The default is to use different values for each student. You could choose to use the same values for all students if you want everyone to have the exact same version of the question. Another option, if you have your submissions set at the question or assignment level, you could choose to require a new randomization after a certain number of submissions. Next is the assignment display. So whether you want questions displayed all at once or one at a time, and the question order. Your sharing options. And then here is where you'll determine what type of help tools and feedback the students have access to and when. So you have one column for items that are showing before the due date and another column for what would show after the due date. Hands tutorials and ebook links refer to those help buttons that we looked at on the student side, so that read it, watch it, master it. Practice another version is available for questions that have randomized values. It's kind of exactly like it sounds. It allows the student to do a different version of the question in addition to the actual question that they have for credit. Answer key and solution if available, and then what type of feedback they receive as they're working through. Automatic point adjustments is a way to apply penalties or bonuses. A common bonus is to award like extra credit for students submitting early. A common penalty is to deduct based off of number of submissions if you want to discourage guessing. You have your numerical tolerance. I'd recommend just using the class settings, but you have that adjustment here as well as for significant figures. Our SALT integration tool for our statistics, and then you have your display and syntax errors. Again, recommend just keeping those at the default. If you make adjustments and you want to create a template based off of your new settings, click on Create a New Template from these settings. This will allow you to give that new template a name, and you can then apply that template moving forward or to any assignments that you've already created. So next, I'm just going to go through the basics. I'm going to give my homework assignment a name. You can put in instructions if you like. And next, I'm going to choose the questions that I want to include. And I'll do that by clicking on the question browser. Your textbooks will show here. My book was Stewart Calculus. And so from the menu, I'm going to choose the chapter. And then I can choose the section that I want to assign questions from. So here I can see all of my questions. You have a couple of different views that you can choose from. Right now I'm in the full view. This is going to show you the full version of the question. You can also see for many questions the estimated amount of time, how many students have taken this question through WebAssign, and the percent of students who got it incorrect on the first try, just to give you a sense of the difficulty. You can adjust the view though here. So if I want to change to the short view, that'll give just a little bit of the question. You can still see the question coding here at the top. Or the micro view will just give you the question names. This is helpful if you do already know the questions that you would like to assign. The naming framework here, like the 5, for instance, so it's chapter 5, section 2, problem 14. So that would correspond with the text. I'm going to go back to my full view though. And I'll just add my questions by clicking on the question title. And it adds the questions over here. And we'll just add a few more. All right, and then when you've selected your questions, you'll click Update Assignment. And now those questions are here and included. If you need to remove the question, you can do so by clicking on the trash can. You also have the ability to adjust your assignment settings at the question level. So if you want to change point values, whether or not Show My Work is enabled, again, you can do that at the question level. You can do bonus or penalties at the question level. So if you wanted a particular question to be extra credit, number of submissions that are allowed, and then access to the learning tools and feedback or numerical tolerance. Once you have this set the way that you would like, you would click on Save. Right now it's saved, but it's not actually assigned into my WebAssign course. So to do that, I'm going to click on Schedule. This window will pop up just to ask me which course I want to schedule it to. So here's my assignment, and I'm just going to drag it into the week that it's due. So I'm going to select my day that it's due, the time. The available date defaults to the start of the course, but that can be adjusted by clicking on the calendar. The view until is the end of the course, but again, can be adjusted by clicking on the calendar. So here's my assignment. It's now scheduled into the course. If you need to make adjustments, that can be done by clicking on the blue menu here on the far right. That'll let you edit the schedule, move it to a different week, preview or unschedule. This is also where you can set restrictions on the assignment. So for instance, if you want to password protect, restrict by IP address, require the lockdown browser, or set a time limit. Note that from this screen, you have the ability to grant extra time to specific students. So if you have a student who needs, time and a half, double time, you have the ability to do that here. Conditional release is a way that you can set basically prerequisites on assignments. So you would require the student to earn a certain percentage on a previous assignment before they would be able to access this. You can waive the restriction for specific students. And lastly, there is the option to set up this assignment to be worked on as a group. Any questions on the assignment setup, assignment settings, or scheduling?
No, I think we're good.
All right, so let me jump back to my homepage. And where we'll go next is looking at how you can monitor student performance, look at their scores as they're taking the assignments. So I'm going to toggle over to a different course that actually has some demo student data in it. So let me just pull that up here. There's a few different ways for you to look at this information. So you could look at student score information for a particular assignment by clicking on the scores link next to that assignment. You could also look at what we call score view. This will show you the raw scores for any of the active assignments in the course. So again, this is just showing you kind of raw point values, so what the student earned versus points possible. By default, it just shows the current assignments, but you could certainly show all or navigate to past. You'll see all of your students listed, the amount of time spent on the assignments that are displayed, and their overall totals. If you wanted to drill into a particular assignment, you can click on the assignment title here. Or if you wanted to go into a specific student, you could click on the student's name. I'm going to jump into an assignment. And so now it just takes us down a step. So now we're looking at the data for this particular assignment. So I can see all of my students, their time spent on the assignment, and it broken down by question. If you need to override a student's score, you can do that by clicking on the student's score. So you can see their raw score, but you have the ability to add penalty or bonus, excuse the assignment, or simply override the score. To see the student's responses on the question, you could do that by clicking on the student's name. And actually, one thing I will do that, but before I move on to that, one thing I neglected to mention is you may see ND or NS as you're looking in this view. ND means never downloaded. That means the student didn't open the assignment. NS is never submitted. That means the student opened the assignment, but they didn't submit any work. Again, I'm going to click into a student's name. And now I can see this particular student's work on the assignment. If you allow multiple attempts and the student made use of that, you can click on previous answers. This will allow you to see record of all of the attempts that the student took on the assignment. A few other things that you can view from this page, you can grant extensions or submissions. You can rescore the assignment. This is really only necessary if there was a change made on the assignment. You can override the student's scores, that same page that we were looking at before, as well as access the log info. The log info gives you basically a record of the student's interaction with the assignment, so you can see when they've opened it and when they've submitted or saved work on the assignment. And then student summary will take you back to where you can see a summary of the student's scores as a whole. So score view and scores, as I mentioned, are showing you the raw score data. So points earned versus points possible. You can choose to set up the WebAssign Gradebook if you want to, for instance, categorize assignments, drop scores, weight categories, things like that to come up with a final course score. If you want to use the WebAssign Gradebook, that's accessed here at the top of the screen by clicking on Grades and then Gradebook. I've already set up this particular gradebook, but if you're accessing for the first time, you'll be taken through a wizard. I'm just going to jump to the settings though, just to show you the different settings that you would select. So you would choose the categories that you want to include, whether you're doing a final calculation and whether you're doing that by weight or a total number of points. Within each of your categories, you can choose to drop a certain number of low scores. For particular assignments, you can remove entirely from the gradebook, drop from calculations. If you're calculating based off of points, you can also count as extra credit or set certain assignments to not allow to be dropped. You can indicate what you want to show on the student side and then also the grading scale. This would allow you to set up thresholds for the different letter grades and plus minus. Another area that I'll show is class insights. That's available underneath class tools right next to score view. Class Insights is a great tool for you as the instructor because it'll give you kind of a quick view of the topics that you've assigned in your WebAssign assignments and the overall student performance. So here I'm looking at a list of topics that I have assigned in my WebAssign assignments and their status. So whether it's a topic that overall needs work, one that where my students overall are performing well, or one that's kind of in that middle zone at risk. From here, you could click into the topic. And then what this is going to show is all of the assignments that include questions aligned with that particular topic. And then you have the ability to see those questions. Underneath question performance, you can then see what the kind of that breakdown is for students. So the percent of students who got it correct on the first attempt, second, and so on. For questions that have multiple parts to them, and all of these do because they have the plus next to them, I can expand and see that data by question part as well. You could then click on a question part. And then here it's going to show you again that breakdown. But what's nice here is when you click in, you can see which of the students fell into each one of those segments. So this allows us to take a look at it by topic. You also have the ability to isolate by student. So here at the top, you have your student menu. And I'll just choose my student. And so this allows you to see, so the student's doing quite well. So I could see any topics that the student may need additional work on, kind of how they're doing on each one of the concepts that I've assigned in my course. Any questions on Score View, Gradebook, or Class Insights?
Some things came in.
All right. So before I jump back to the slides to talk a bit about the different resources that are available, I did want to touch on the student registration options. So we touched on these when we were creating the course. If you set up a course that is set up to have the students roster with a class key, and you know what, I don't have any, so let me just make that adjustment to show you what that looks like. So if you do have it set up that way, you'll be able to access the class key right underneath the roster. It'll say class key settings. So this is what you would provide the students, and that's what they would use to register and enroll themselves into your WebAssign course. If you're planning, though, to integrate into your learning management system, you'll notice when I chose that option, it did not generate a class key. That's because students don't need a class key if you are integrating. The students will register themselves when they click on the WebAssign link that you have in your learning management system course. So no need to provide a class key if you're integrating. Simply clicking on the integrated link will roster them and take them into the correct WebAssign course. All right, so let me jump into reviewing some of the other resources that we have available. So we do have a variety of resources that are available to you to help you as you're getting up and running with WebAssign, as well as support your students as they're getting going in the course. So we do have our training site at cengage.com/training/WebAssign. This site includes our user guides, all of our brief training videos, and archived webinars that you can reference. Our Start Strong site is where you can access student registration videos and walkthroughs that will show them how to register into their WebAssign course. It allows you to select, whether you're integrating with your learning management system, which learning management system you use, if you're having the students go with a class key, so that you can have the instructions that walk the students through exactly what they need to do to get registered and get started in your WebAssign course. Our WebAssign content support team is fantastic about help with any content support. And then we have our WebAssign blog that provides access to how-tos, best practices as you're using WebAssign. Our WebAssign technical help, so this is available through that help link in your WebAssign course, but it can also be accessed from our help site at cengage.com/help. This is where we have step-by-step instructions, full documentation on how to use all of the functionality that is available in WebAssign for your particular course. We also have our customer support team. They are available 24/7 for you and your students at support.cengage.com. So if you run into any technical or support needs, can certainly contact our technical support team that will help out with any needs that you have. If you're not sure who's best to talk to, definitely reach out to your Cengage representative. You can find them at cengage.com/repfinder if you're not sure who that person is for your school. Our syllabus resource page is a great page to get verbiage that you can add into your syllabus. From this page, you can select your particular scenario and copy and paste that verbiage. It'll give you exactly what you need to ensure that your students are purchasing the correct course materials. And kind of as that relates to different purchase options, we do have a variety of different purchase options here at Cengage, from Cengage Unlimited, inclusive access, standalone purchase options. If you're not sure, definitely connect with your Cengage representative and they'll be able to provide some guidance on kind of the best purchase options for your students for your particular course. Our Start Strong page that I mentioned, again, this can be accessed at startstrong.cengage.com. And this is where you can access all of the videos, our registration guides that will walk the students through that registration process. And then lastly, wanted to put in a plug for our All Access community. This is where you can register, engage with colleagues. Instructions for creating your account are all listed here. And with that, we can open it up for Q&A.
So we did have one question come in. I don't know if you're able to answer this, but if not, I can document the steps in chat. How do you assign an exam to one student?
So there isn't a way to schedule the assignment to just one student. You could create the assignment and password protect it and just provide that password to the student who needs to take it. You also have the options to grant extensions to particular students. So if you just need to allow a single student to take it late, you could do that on an assignment that you've already set up. And Shauna, if you have other steps, definitely open. Please jump in.
Yeah, I think those are the easiest ways. There is a more complicated process you can go through. It's just not ideal for large classes. It goes into, extending someone's due date and then excusing all the other students. So definitely go with the password protecting first and reach out to your rep if not, and they can provide you with the process. And then we had one other question come in from Heather. After selecting a question, is it possible to edit the content of the question?
Yeah, so let me jump back into WebAssign here. Let me get back into my course here. So you can't edit the actual content of the question, but what you can do, Heather, is duplicate the question and then make modifications to the duplicate. So you're basically making a copy of the question and editing the copy. So within a question, I'm just going to pop it open from my particular, from this assignment. I can click on edit. This will take you into the question editor. You won't be able to make any changes to the code here because it's, the out of the box question, but you can click on duplicate. This will allow you to rename the question. It basically becomes your question and you'll have all the code here, and then you can modify as you need. And then what you could do if the question already existed on your assignment is remove the original and then add in your duplicate copy, the one that you edited.
And then there are a lot of questions coming in about LMS. Just as a reminder, we do have training sessions for all of the individual LMSs. So definitely go ahead and register for those.
Yes. Yeah. In those LMS sessions, we'll cover the process of how to complete the integration, how to set up the gradebook synchronization, and answer any questions related to that process.
All right. Any other last minute questions, please go ahead and drop them in Q&A. If the answer to a question is wrong, how do you change it?
So if you're noticing an error on one of the questions, definitely submit that into the WebAssign content team, and we'll take a look at the question and make any updates that might be needed in the code to ensure that everything is accurate.
Yep, and I will post a link to that. Do keep in mind, we have a WebAssign content team that Elizabeth had shared a email from. So if you ever think a question is wrong or you think that the grading is incorrect, you can always reach out to them and they can either explain it to you, or if they agree with you that it is wrong, they can go ahead and change it live. So to make sure it updates all the questions.
And I do see the question about setting a password on an assignment. So if you've already scheduled the assignment, you can click on schedule next to that assignment just from your WebAssign course. And then next to the assignment, you're going to click on the menu and choose edit restrictions. And the password protection is right here. And so you could set it there. See. The only other question I see is about getting a recording. And we will be sending out a recording of the session to everyone who had registered.
Yep. And there is one question that came in via chat is, can you walk me through the process of setting a password to a given assignment?
Yep. So that's done through the class schedule page. Again, you click on edit restrictions next to the assignment, and then you can enter the password here. Anything else?
I don't see anything.
All right. Well, thank you everyone so much for joining us this afternoon. As Shauna mentioned, we will be sending out a recording to everyone who had registered for the session. But thanks again for joining, and enjoy the rest of your day.